Jill, you're going to be giving a talk tomorrow. Can you tell us a bit about your talk?
This is a march of 100,000 of possibly the poorest people in the world who will be standing up for their rights. These are their land rights because they're a landless, poor population. They will be moving from a place near the Taj Mahal in India to Delhi, which is about 350 kilometers. They will be eating, sleeping, and bathing on the national highway. Effectively, they're taking over the public highway. And this is to take their legitimate rights, which they have, a piece of paper, and taking it to the Prime Minister and having his government honor it. But really, the statement is about the governance system, which is not serving a large portion of the population. We hear about the rich in India who are making a great deal of disposable income, but we don't often hear about the bottom 30%, which is being effectively annihilated.
And what's your role in this march?
I have been working on a number of programs within this people's movement for many years, about 18 years to be specific. I went over to India as part of the United Nations, and I was working on resource issues, forestry and land issues. And I set up my own NGO for a number of years, but realized that the real unless people stand up for themselves and demand their rights as well as pressure government to provide services to them, nothing is going to change. And so slowly I opted towards this movement. My partner is the head of the movement. So effectively I have by default, I'm also very, very closely associated with the movement. But, I really found it in my own way through my own development work as well. So.
And why UBC? Why have you come to UBC to give a talk? And I guess more specifically in the Department of Education.
Michelle, I think UBC has always had a reputation of having ties with Asia and India. And I remember coming here many years ago and seeing that. And so it was in part because of the commitment of the university to India. But it's also because there's a big Indigenous program here. And many of the people who are marchers, who are part of this, the 12,000 community leaders that are now in India, a large number of them are Indigenous people. I think about 60% of the 2007 march were Indigenous people. So I wanted there to be a relationship between Indigenous people, First Nations in Canada, and the Indigenous people there. In fact, the present head of the Assembly of First Nations, Sean Atleo, who is from BC, he was at our previous march, and it was very important. His statement, which he made in his own local language as well as in English to the 25,000 people at the beginning of the march.
He's actually a graduate of this department.
He's a graduate of this department. I think the education is very important because how did people get conscientized? I think we need to learn. Often we think as being part of a developed country and that we have the knowledge, but I think in fact in this case we have a lot to learn from India, culturally, politically, and in terms of how all of these people have been mobilized. Because if you can see the poorest people in the world in a sustained action, and this has been going on for many years, these actions, then I think it gives people hope in this part of the world that social change is possible.